rediscover your sense of Santa Barbara. Stearns Wharf, you're on to something.
Hi, I'm Rachel Senes with City TV. This month on Inside Santa Barbara. Fire headquarters gets a makeover. Find out how changes to the building improve emergency response in the city. And speaking of emergencies, are you ready for an earthquake? City TV finds out what's shaken during the Great California Shakeout. And it's not new, but it's definitely improved. Join us as we take a stroll along Cabrillo Boulevard. All that and much more on City TV's award-winning news magazine show, Inside Santa Barbara. Hi, I'm Rachel Senes with City TV, and welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. Well, Fire Headquarters has undergone a makeover. Thanks to a remodel, Fire Station 1 on Carrillo Street is retrofitted to withstand an 8.0 earthquake. In our top story, find out how this seismic renovation directly affects you. Imagine firefighters, city council members, and other city staff all working under the same roof. That was the case back in the early 1900s when the City of Santa Barbara Fire Department was stationed inside City Hall, located in De La Guerra Plaza.
So if you could imagine city council going on with the horses and all of the clamor from the steam engines back then, it must have been quite a scene. That remained going until about 1923, when I think they felt like, oh, it's time to build a little bit better city hall.
So Fire Headquarters was relocated to 921 Chapala Street.
And there's some legend about that it was built maybe not with the best of plans, and when they finalized building it, that the fire station actually came out 10 feet into Chapala Street. So the firefighters took it upon themselves and actually got out hammers and saws, and they pushed back that 10 feet, and they occupied it. It's also been said that during the Depression that they allowed men to sleep in the fire station in exchange for responding on fires.
Thanks to a $650,000 bond, 2 other fire stations were built as well. Station 6 on the Mesa and Station 7 on Stanwood Drive on the Riviera. Money went a long way back then. It even provided for 6 fire engines and a ladder truck. The idea to use bond money to increase fire protection throughout the city was conceived of by C.L. Tenney. He was instrumental in passing the bond measure. Tenney died in the line of duty in 1963 after 26 years as fire chief. Soon after, Fire Station 1 was dedicated to him, and his name graces the front of Fire Headquarters today. 1, 2, 3. Yay! As history has shown, C.L. Tenney paved the way to improving public safety. These historic photos show us how Fire Headquarters has improved throughout the decades. It stands new and improved today due to the completion of its seismic renovation, which was celebrated on October 23rd.
This station is now built to withstand an 8.0 earthquake, which is the standard for essential public service buildings. And what that required was strengthening of sidewalls so that the building wouldn't shake side to side, because we have a large open area where we park the apparatus. So that required large footings and a lot of steel and a lot of concrete.
The renovation means that when an earthquake strikes, city firefighters will be able to respond to emergencies instead of dealing with a dysfunctional headquarters. Retired El Segundo firefighter Jim Pitney, father of Santa Barbara City Fire Captain Gary Pitney, toured the new building during a public open house held in October. Jim started firefighting in 1959 and retired 25 years later.
It boils down to the sturdiness of the station and how it was well thought out. You can notice how it's all retrofitted for earthquake Everything is sprinklered. Just, I don't know, 1,000% over what it was.
Also new are the crew quarters on the second floor, rooms for firefighters that are fitting for their long shifts. Children who toured the new fire station learned that the building is a second home to firefighters. What are some of the things you learned about the fire station from the firefighters?
That they all stayed here for a whole 48 hours.
During those 48 hours, anything can happen, and firefighters will be ready, thanks to this new piece of technology installed in each of their rooms.
Actually, we're the only station in the city that has this, is the ability to monitor the type of calls that we get. So, as an engine crew, we're listening to get any calls that involve the entire station or our engine, then the alarm system will be activated.
Something new downstairs is this room. Normally it serves as a classroom, but when an emergency occurs, it has all the technology to transform into the Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, for the entire city. An EOC is activated in response to major disasters. City employees from different departments, along with the fire and police departments, work together to manage and respond to an emergency and communicate crucial information. Prior to the seismic renovation, this briefing room at the police department served as the EOC. But cramming all the necessary staff into such a small room was not ideal during an emergency.
That was much smaller. I'm not sure the square footage, but we have a large area, and that'll help us be able to equip it, staff it, and work more calmly and efficiently in case of an emergency. We're able to utilize a lot of the modern projectors, internet systems here. There's a lot of wire right here in this area, this classroom/EOC.
The station also serves other purposes for the city.
Computer services for the city are integrated into a redundant backup system that's located here at Station 1. So if something does happen to City Hall, for instance, the computers will go into a backup mode and we'll have that capability.
Although many changes were made during its seismic renovation, priorities remain the same. The old tradition of sliding down the fire pole to reach the engines and trucks quick still exists here at Fire Station 1. Quick response time remains one of the top priorities for city firefighters. And now the firehouse is not only earthquake safe, but also green, with elements like solar panels that power up to 25% of the building's energy needs. City officials believe that the building will receive LEED Gold certification. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and receiving a gold rating means that the fire station is one of the most energy efficient in the country. So the next time a disaster strikes, you can rest assured that city firefighters are ready as ever to respond to the emergency. All the changes that have been made to Station 1 are now a part of Fire Headquarters history. Firefighters say that the late city fire chief, C.L. Tenney, would be proud. The seismic renovation of Fire Station 1 will be an asset to the community for years to come. Fire Station 1 has also been improved to meet the accessibility requirements for the Americans with Disabilities Act. Well, it is the rainy season and it's a good time to prepare for the possibility of flooding or mudslides. But in our next story, we'll show you a statewide drill that the city just participated in for another type of disaster that has no season.
Earthquake! Earthquake!
1 minute. That's how long this drill lasted. But considering an earthquake can devastate an entire city within seconds, 1 minute was plenty of time to get the point across.
You need to be prepared. I mean, Santa Barbara has a lot of threats that can come against it, and if we're not prepared and it hits us blindsided, we could be in a lot of trouble.
And that's why the city, along with millions of people across the state, participated in the Great California Shakeout Earthquake Drill on October 15th to show the value of preparation through practice.
Today's drill was just a reiteration that if the fire department has a plan, has a kit, needs to practice it, so do the citizens. And so that's why the agencies do a lot of pre-mitigation work. That's why we built the new Emergency Operations Center, why we have drills and trainings throughout the year with our emergency operations staff so that we can be ready.
Firefighters went through their emergency procedures, including removing engines from the station, turning off the gas in the case of a leak, and leaving a call sheet for residents who come to the station while they're out.
The priority for the fire department here, this particular fire station, is they have a district that they respond in, and that fire captain is responsible for doing a survey or a reconnaissance of that particular district. But before we can go check our district, we have to make sure that we're safe. We can't leave the fire station with a problem.
Once we've secured the station, we'll actually drive around our district. So what we're doing is going to high hazard areas that have possibility of high loss of life, and we're going to be checking those out.
The drill was also an opportunity to point out just how stretched emergency personnel will be in the event of a major disaster. For example, on any given day, there are 3 firefighters on duty at each station. That's a total of 25 firefighters citywide, responsible for responding to possibly hundreds of emergencies.
And it becomes really important for people to be able to deal with their own issues. If some people waves us down, we'll pull over to talk to them, hey, what do you got going on? If they've got a gas leak, they should be able to deal with their own gas leak. If they've got a small medical stuff, we'll take a quick look at, see what it is, and they'll need to be self-sufficient for at least 72 hours, because we're going to need to deal with the bigger issues.
So what can you do to prepare?
First of all, you need to have a plan. And when you have a plan, you need to practice that plan. You also need to share that plan with someone that's outside of the jurisdiction or outside of the area, even state. So your families that are outside of the state, when you hear a big earthquake, you don't know what's really going on. But if a family outside of the state has your plan, then it brings the stress level down. Also have a kit. You need to have a kit. You need to have it ready all the time, whether it's in your car, whether it's at work, at home. You need to know, if you have children, what the school's plans are for your children in the event of any type of disaster. And again, practice, practice, practice your plan.
The biggest thing is to be prepared to be on your own for 3 days, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. But there's 90,000 people in the city, and it's going to take some time.
According to the USGS, there is a greater than 99% chance that an earthquake 6.7 or larger will hit California in the next 30 years. And for more information on how you can prepare for an earthquake, visit the city's website, santabarbaraca.gov, and click on the quick link called Disaster Preparedness. And we'll be right back.
Minutes away. Hours of fun. See another world. Stearns Wharf. Your local, affordable source for family fun.
I pledge.
Pledge to take the 20-gallon challenge. It's easy and simple. Turn your sprinklers on and check for leaks once a month.
I pledge.
Use 3 inches of mulch throughout your garden.
I pledge.
Use online tools to adjust your watering schedule.
I pledge.
Install a rain sensor and it will automatically shut off your sprinklers when it is raining.
I pledge.
Save water now. Take the 20-gallon challenge at sbwater.org.
Hello, I'm Dr. Peter Hassler, the health officer for Santa Barbara County. I'd like to spend a minute with you to talk about how to avoid getting the H1N1 or swine flu. The swine flu virus is spread in the same way as seasonal flu virus. Either you breathe in the virus when someone sneezes or coughs near you, or you have the virus on your hands and you touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. To reduce the risk of catching the flu, stay away from people who appear sick, wash your hands with soap and water, cough or sneeze into a tissue or your sleeve, keep your hands away from your eyes, nose, and mouth, and get vaccinated for the seasonal and H1N1 flu. For more information, visit sbcfluinfo.org or call 1-888-722-6358.
day-to-day replays. Moments you might cherish pass you by. But the light of the morning seems to say that one small thing can change the world. The morning light remains. The smile that you offer is returned. The good fortune of the day can be blamed on the fact that one small thing can change the world.
Shouldn't that go into recycling?
Recycling? Recycling? Everybody knows the trash gets sorted. We don't need no stinking recycling.
Fact is, no trash gets sorted, friend. So if it goes in there, it just ends up at a landfill.
There's only one way to settle this. Draw.
Santa Barbara recycles.
Welcome back to Inside Santa Barbara. Well, the city's water supply, when you take a look at it historically, seems like a tale of two cities. Over the past 100 years, we have experienced heavy rainfall and extreme drought, all affecting the city's water supply. Well, up next, City TV's Nina Sang shows us where we get this precious commodity and what the city is doing to improve the system.
Imagine a time when getting water meant having to travel long distances to various springs and wells, loading it up, then carting it back. Luckily for us, it's a lot easier now. But where does that water come from? For the city of Santa Barbara, providing quality, potable water to residents is a top priority. To ensure reliability to its water customers, the city taps multiple resources. Gibraltar Reservoir and Cachuma Lake are our two main sources for water. Each is routed through a tunnel within the mountains. Offsetting the need for additional potable water, the city also relies heavily on ground and recycled water. For additional insurance in case of drought, the city became a member of the State Water Project and built a desalination facility. But to understand why this backup plan is even necessary, we need to take a step back and look at Santa Barbara's water history.
Santa Barbara has a long history of water. We have the development of the Gibraltar Reservoir and the Mission Tunnel, which date to the very early 1900s, and then was our primary water supply for many years until the 1950s when Cachuma was constructed, and that became an equally important water supply and now has surpassed the importance of Gibraltar in supplying water to Santa Barbara.
The city relies on Gibraltar Reservoir as a year-to-year source. The much larger Cachuma is a multi-year source, meaning we count on it to carry us through the years where we have little rainfall. While rainfall is extremely important, equally critical are the tunnels that connect Gibraltar Reservoir and Lake Cachuma to the city. If these tunnels fail, our major water supplies go with them.
It could collapse, and it has collapsed from time to time, and we've been able to clean it out so far, but depending on the extent of the collapse, it could be an extended outage. Could be months, could be years. And while the tunnel is closed, we're not able to get water through it.
With a history of severe droughts and tunnel collapses, the city has diversified its water portfolio to prevent what could be a catastrophic water outage.
That's another reason why groundwater is such a critical part of our supply. It could be the only potable water available to us for months at a time, so it's important for us to maintain that and have it ready for use.
Groundwater is the water that seeps deep into the ground and is stored in small spaces between the rock and soil particles. The city has 9 groundwater production wells. That water goes directly into our distribution system or to the Ortega groundwater treatment plant. As a way to keep as much water as possible allocated for drinking, the city also uses recycled water. Recycled water is used water that comes from homes and businesses and is treated at the city's wastewater treatment plant. It's used on large landscapes such as schools, parks, and golf courses. During an emergency drought, however, reservoir water would be reduced, groundwater pumping would be increased, and as much state water as possible would be ordered. This still might not be sufficient for all of Santa Barbara, so we might need to restart the desalination facility, which was built during the drought in the early 1990s. Due to the high cost of maintaining the equipment, the desalination plant is currently inactive. However, in the case of an emergency drought, it could be a significant source of water.
And having the desal plant, which we don't use on a regular basis, really adds that added level of reliability, sort of like an insurance plan, that if we got into a really bad situation, we would still be able to produce water for our citizens.
In addition to constructing the desalination plant, the city voted to join the State Water Project in 1991.
We have a very small allotment of water from that project. The most we can get in any year is 3,000 acre-feet, which is about a fifth of our water supply. But it does add to the reliability of our supply, because it means that in a period of drought we could potentially go and try and find water that other agencies were selling, and we would have the infrastructure to get it to us.
As a conduit for a critical resource, water infrastructure is continually inspected and maintained to make sure that it is dependable and meets all regulations.
Maintaining up-to-date and good infrastructure is critical to having a reliable water supply. Otherwise, we'll have pipe bursts around the city, people will be out of water, and it interrupts our roadways. Since most of our pipes are in the roadway, it can interfere with traffic flow.
Rain or shine, the city promotes water conservation. Even with multiple water sources and backup plans in case of shortages, the city relies on residents to help conserve water. It also provides them with the necessary tools to do so.
Residents should know that their water supply is extremely safe and that it is reliable, but they should also remember how valuable it is. And they should use it sparingly and remember that it's a valuable resource and that we always urge conservation.
A diversified water portfolio combined with conservation ensure that the residents of the city of Santa Barbara can go to the tap knowing that they will have clean water whatever the weather.
And to make sure you're doing your part, you can get a free water audit to analyze your household's water usage by calling 564-5460. And for more water conservation tips, visit sbwater.org. Well, Santa Barbara has had its share of both man-made and natural disasters, but history has shown that having the right tools if a disaster strikes makes all the difference. Up next, Channel 18's Dominique Blocker shows us a new tool in the city's Disaster Preparedness Toolbox.
January 28, 1969 started out like any other day. However, only a few hours into the morning, one of the worst environmental disasters to ever hit the Central Coast took place. 6 miles off the coast, Union Oil Company's Platform A suffered a blowout. Over the next 10 days, 3 million gallons of crude oil gushed from the site and fouled the coastline from Pismo Beach to Oxnard and all of the 4 northern Channel Islands. The oil also made its way into the Santa Barbara harbor, causing untold damage to boats and wildlife. Although there has not been another major oil spill in the past 40 years along Santa Barbara's coast, a recent incident in the San Francisco Bay reminds us of an important lesson. If we want to prevent the catastrophic damage to our harbor that occurred during 1969's infamous event, we have to be prepared now.
The tanker hit one of the support structures for the bridge and spilled a lot of petroleum product into the bay. And that affected small ports and harbors on both sides, the west and east side of San Francisco Bay. The problem they found was that the Coast Guard was not able to deploy boom equipment, protective equipment quickly enough to those small ports and harbors.
Following this event, the Department of Fish and Game's Office of Spill Prevention and Response, or OSPR, initiated a grant program made just for small ports and harbors like Santa Barbara's. Thanks to a $25,000 grant from OSPR, the Santa Barbara Harbor is now better prepared for an oil spill.
We received about 1,000 feet of hard boom to protect the inner harbor, our most valuable assets, the 1,100 boats and the infrastructure facilities, from what you'd like to think of as the big one, any kind of offshore spill that was major enough to inundate the harbor.
It's a curtain. There's a float, a 6-inch float that's on the surface, and then there's more material, 12 inches of curtain that hangs down from the float. So there's 18 inches, of barrier to keep the oil out of the harbor. So in addition, we have probably about 400 feet or more of absorbent boom, which we can also deploy.
Not only did the grant secure funding for the equipment itself, Harbor Patrol was also trained by OSPR on its use. The goal is to get the boom set up in as short a time as possible to prevent oil from entering the harbor.
It's a pretty simple operation. The trailer's stationed down at the launch ramp. We just hook up either a maintenance truck or a Harbor Patrol truck to it. That should happen, in a few minutes. Drive it around, back it up to the water, and then the amount of time it takes to drive one of the patrol boats from here to there, it shouldn't be a long operation. 30 minutes from beginning to end till you're pulling boom into the water. So, and with any luck, you would have a lot more notice than that.
No, I just think this is one more tool we have in our emergency preparedness kit to make sure that we're as prepared as possible for any kind of natural or man-made disaster.
The tool is also versatile and may be used for other things besides a major oil spill.
It could be used on something smaller. Usually we use absorbent boom if a boat sinks or something and there's some spill at that location, gasoline or something leaking from the boat. We encircle it with absorbent boom usually. But if we had a bigger incident, it could potentially, this is another piece of equipment we could use if we needed it.
And although the hope is to never need the equipment, having it available and ready means the city of Santa Barbara is prepared in the case that we ever do.
It's another tool we have, and there's a lot of possibilities that we could use it for. You don't want to say no to any of this stuff. You want to be prepared when you have a big incident, and this makes us more prepared.
I think the risks are really quite minimal, but you have to plan for the worst case scenario, just like with tsunamis and earthquakes and all our emergency preparedness. We always plan for the worst because you never know the worst could happen.
Harbor staff worked with the OSPR as well as city and county emergency personnel to secure the grant. Well, Cabrillo Boulevard attracts many people, including restaurant patrons and beachgoers. And now a project there is giving people even more reasons to take a stroll along the West Beach area. Channel 18's Becky Oxborough shows us what's new.
Construction on the West Beach Pedestrian Improvement Project is well underway, and by 2010, the new and improved beachfront walkway will be a more pleasant experience for pedestrians.
Overall, I think it's a fantastic project. I think that the most important thing about it is it helps to link the city proper to the beach. And even though it's only, you could say you're only crossing one street, I think it brings the city to the beach and the beach to the city.
The idea for the project began 4 years ago when the redevelopment agency decided to tie together the areas between Stearns Wharf and the harbor in order to make West Cabrillo Boulevard a more attractive place for people to enjoy.
In 2005, the Redevelopment Agency Board appropriated $2 million to establish the project. At that time, the Conceptual Motion Company was contracted to assist us, and they did extensive stakeholder outreach to the various groups that are involved down here, the waterfront merchants, the harbor merchants, the Shumash community, and then also various city departments, including the waterfront department, Public Works Transportation, and obviously the Redevelopment Agency.
While the project provides improvements such as brick pedestrian crossings, bulb outs, new lighting, and enhanced landscape, it also includes public art to incorporate Santa Barbara culture and history.
The West Beach pedestrian expansion has always included from its initial inception the idea of including public art components, and those components, the intention of those components is to add a little bit of more understanding of the history of the beach, some of the cultural significance.
The Redevelopment Agency, in coordination with the Arts Commission, put out a request for proposals to local artists to find 4 different waterfront-themed pieces to be installed into the walkway.
So through the extensive outreach that was done by the Conceptual Motion Company, there were recurring themes for the Santa Barbara waterfront. The first being at Los Baños and sort of this theme of athletics and aquatics, and so that was the theme that was selected for that area. Here at Sea Landing we have a theme of the working harbor and the important role that the harbor has played in the development of the waterfront. At Ambassador Park there is a Chumash themed artwork, and that is to designate Siuktung, which is their historical city center, and the long history of the Chumash here in the area. And then lastly at Chapala, there's the theme of environmentalism and how Santa Barbara has really been critical in the development of environmentalism globally, and also just the strong environmental sense that Santa Barbara has.
Of the 4 winning pieces, the first to be installed was the Siuktung Story Mosaic, located across from Ambassador Park, also known as Burton Mound, one of the sites of an original Chumash village.
It's been quite a process, and I think that this is going to be a project that really adds a great cultural component to the experience of visitors and locals to the beachfront.
The Siuktung Mosaic was a collaborative effort of the 5 local Chumash bands. The 5 groups worked together to find a common story that would represent the long-standing history of the Chumash in Santa Barbara.
One of my responsibilities was to develop a narrative so that we could base the design on the narrative. So part of what myself and several other artists did was to go into our oral traditions, to listen to the stories of what we had been told as children and growing up from our elders, you know, from our grandparents, our parents, our aunties and our uncles and our cousins and so forth. And to also go into the notes that were left behind by our ancestors, and which contain those stories.
After consulting the tribal leaders and elders of each group, a consensus was reached for the final design of the mosaic.
This is a visual timeline from creation through present day. As Stephen had mentioned, also our oral history and present day activity, maintaining our culture, but specifically to accurately and culturally represent the space of the village of Siuktung, which is the largest Santa Barbara village along the waterfront there. And so we felt that through our design and community involvement, which is the key, we've done that.
What sets this project aside from any other is the public art component.
As artists, obviously we can't bend the metal and lay the tile, but we designed it, and then you're working with people, craftsmen who actually buy into the project and give their best possible work in a project that means so much to us. I think it's a really great thing to see people, concrete workers that may be just normally doing sidewalks, suddenly they're doing art, and I think the quality of work tells me that they're buying into it as an experience as well as just a piece of work.
The enhancements being made on the West Beach Pedestrian Improvement Project will continue to make the beachfront a place for people to enjoy Santa Barbara's history and culture.
The project is estimated to be complete by early 2010. Well, the city is celebrating the beginning of construction of the new airline terminal. Up next, join City TV as we take a look at Santa Barbara Airport's flight to the future.
Today was just the crowning point of a lot of effort that had gone into the planning and design of the terminal. But what I really enjoyed was working with all the people from the Design Review Committee, just the input that came and the collaboration between people who may have differing design opinions or tastes, working together just for the good of the project.
We all knew we needed a new terminal to accommodate today's air service needs, as well as any future needs. The challenge that the council gave the design team was to conceive of a terminal plan that provided the required space and amenities, as well as new technology, while incorporating that Santa Barbara airport experience. Everyone now cherishes it, and we will in the future.
Everybody take a step to the right so we can see the flight to the future.
Well, what's unique about Santa Barbara is the scale is very different from the scale of terminals that we typically work on. It's a community, low scale. The aspirations of this community are different from many of our airport clients. The expectations of the project are very different. The emphasis here is on this so-called Santa Barbara experience with a lot of exterior, interior interaction, sustainability, energy efficiency, and of course we can't forget this Spanish colonial revival style that's so important to the city.
Another council priority was that the new building also had to be accessible to all and sustainable. So the new terminal was designed for easy navigation by all passengers, including those with disabilities, seniors, and families traveling with young children. The terminal complex has been designed to lead or leadership in energy environmental design silver standards, and we are on target with that goal.
It would be the first airport terminal in this country to get the silver rating.
You know, as a small city, Goleta's very lucky to have such a wonderful airport in our midst. We're excited to see this expansion. You know, our city recently adopted our first economic development plan. And one of the elements of this plan commits our city to work with the airport staff to facilitate the needs of the airlines and the passengers in terms of business and tourism support. So this airport is a great asset to our Goleta residents. Its beauty definitely adds to the pride we have in the Santa Barbara airport.
When we heard about this opportunity to include public art and art specifically at the airport that featured regional artists, we couldn't think of a better mix, because Channing Peak is definitely one of the most recognized regional artists, certainly in Southern California, and just because the subject matter is so typically Santa Barbara culture with the focus on the fiesta, and just that it's lively and it really sort of suggests the rich cultural festival activities that go on in Santa Barbara.
Our flight to the future has successfully completed its first stop. It's the lengthy design process, and we did it. And now we're taking off for the next leg of the journey, a 16-month construction period, so hang on. But we're very pleased that you've been part of this journey, and thanks to everyone who has helped us with this journey so far. It couldn't have been successful without your support, so thanks so much.
For the status of the airline terminal project, visit future.flysba.com. Well, that does it for this month's episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have any questions or comments about the show, give us a call at City TV. That number is 564-5311. You can also watch the show online at citytv18.com. I'm your host, Rachel Senes, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.
minutes away. Hours of fun. See another world. Stearns Wharf, your local, affordable source for family fun.
H1N1 virus, commonly known as swine flu, is a new type of respiratory flu. Most people recover from the flu, both seasonal flu and H1N1 flu, with only comfort measures, such as anti-fever medications, rest, liquids, and healthy foods. The H1N1 flu we've seen so far appears to be about the same as seasonal flu in the amount of serious illness it causes. Many people get sick with the flu each year. This year, it's possible more people than usual may get sick with the flu, either H1N1 or seasonal flu. Because the symptoms are the same, most people won't know if it is H1N1 or another flu virus that is causing their illness. What will be important is to do what we can to prevent getting the flu, to know the symptoms that are signs of serious illness, and when to seek care from a healthcare provider. We should all be doing all we can to avoid getting the flu. Washing hands frequently with soap and water, or using alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and sneezing or coughing into a tissue or upper arm or elbow will help prevent the spread of the flu. It's important to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, as that is how viruses can enter your body. Avoid contact with those who are sick. Those who are sick should stay home to avoid spreading illness to other people. It is important to get vaccinated against both the seasonal flu and H1N1 flu when it is available to you based on your age and medical condition. Here is some additional information that will help you prevent and respond to the flu. The H1N1 flu is spread when a person touches their mouth, nose, or eyes after touching something that has the flu germs on it, or by inhaling airborne germs after a person with the flu sneezes or coughs near them. Symptoms of the H1N1 flu include a fever and one of the following symptoms: cough, sore throat, runny or stuffy nose, body aches, headache, chills, and fatigue. If you are sick with flu-like illness, stay home for at least 24 hours after your fever is gone without the use of fever-reducing medicines like aspirin or Tylenol. Most people do not need special medications or medical care to recover from the flu. However, consult a doctor if you get the flu and you are a pregnant woman, infant, a person with respiratory disease, chronic disease, or compromised immune system, because the flu can be more severe for these individuals. Parents or guardians should seek immediate medical attention for their children if they show the following symptoms: fast or troubled breathing, bluish or gray skin color, not drinking enough fluids, severe or persistent vomiting, not waking up or not interacting, being so irritable that a child does not want to be held, flu-like symptoms that improve but then return with fever and worse cough. In adults, emergency warning signs that need urgent medical attention include difficulty breathing or shortness of breath, pain or pressure in the chest or abdomen, sudden dizziness, confusion, severe or persistent vomiting. Flu-like symptoms improve, but then return with fever and worse cough. For more information on the swine flu in Santa Barbara County, visit sbcfluinfo.org or call 888-722-6358.
Years ago, early cave dwellers relied on natural fiber shoulder pouches to gather their food. Native Americans used baskets made of rushes or reeds to collect and carry acorns, berries, or fish. In the mid-19th century, gold miners loaded their saddlebags with precious metals and packed it onto their donkeys. Even 1930s American movie icons skipped down the yellow brick road with full baskets for the journey. In the 70s, we were all grooving to the latest funkadelic sounds with our out-of-sight bags. History has shown us that reusable is a better way to go. The decisions we make each day affect the world around us. Where's your bag?